right, guys, so the CR250R, this is a bike that needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give you one anyway. This bike really is an icon, as you guys know, in the industry. It's had a ton of success in its heyday with riders like Jeremy McGrath, Ricky Carmichael. This thing has basically won every trophy that it could. And it was manufactured until 2007 when sadly Honda stopped putting any R&D research development money into this bike, and they don't make it anymore, obviously. So now all riders like us can do is scoop this bike up from the used bike market and make it work for our needs. So with this bike, this is actually a 2004 model CR, and we wanted to do something a little bit different than some of the other builds that are out there right now. Now, you guys know this is a full-blown motocross bike, but we wanted to set it up for some aggressive off-road riding and trail riding. And I think that with the parts and accessories that we've added to this thing, we've succeeded. So let me take you through and show you everything that we've done to this bike. So first things first, let's start with the engine. Now, it really helps if you can pick a used bike up that is in good running, working order. And that was the case with this bike. We really didn't have to do much to the engine as far as running, but we did start off with some of the more common problems with the CRs. Now, first thing I'm gonna talk about is the air boot intake system. They have sealing issues with the air boot and the air filter too. So we combated that with an aftermarket filter. We siliconed the air boot to the air box, and that took care of that issue. The next issue we moved on to was the carburetor. Now, the CR250R is known for having a finicky carburetor. It's really hard to jet and get running perfect and keep running perfect, especially when you're changing elevation and stuff. So we didn't mess with any of that. We just went straight to electron carburetor. These things are awesome. Obviously, I hope you guys know about them, but there's a reason they're super hot in the market right now. They use a metering rod instead of jets, and it self-adjusts for elevation, temperature, everything like that. You don't have to worry about jetting. And that's especially important when you're changing elevation from the desert up to the mountains. Now, moving on from there, this engine and this bike actually already had a V-Force setup on it. It's a V-Force 3 reed cage system. These are really a no-brainer for two-strokes, especially on the CRs. It helps throughout the power range, gives you more power, more bottom end, more top end. If you don't have one on your bike, I would highly suggest it. Now, moving through the engine from there, another common issue with these late model CRs is the lack of bottom end. And so we added the Boyson exhaust flange on this bike, and that works in conjunction with our new and super sexy FMF exhaust system. Now, we went with the gnarly pipe. I think that's another no-brainer for our type of riding. They're super tough, but they also give you a lot more bottom end and bark down low throughout the mid-range. And then we capped that all off with the FMF Turbine Core 2 silencer. These things are their most popular silencer. And again, it gets us Forest Service approved and spark arrested so we can ride our single track up here in the mountains. The next thing we went after on this bike is just setting it up for trail riding, making it a little more easy to manage through those tighter technical parts of the trail. So to do that, we added a Steely heavy flywheel weight. Now, if you guys don't know what these do, it's an added weight that you attach to your flywheel, and it really just helps with that transition through the power band, and it gives you a little more grunt down low, a little more tractability with the rear wheel. Now, to benefit and work with that, we added a Recluse Radius CX clutch. Now, this is a full auto clutch, as you guys know. It's the best components that Recluse has to offer, all in one package, and there's a ton of different benefits you get from running this thing. I already mentioned the auto clutch, so you don't got to worry about stalling, but this also adds with more power delivery, so you're not slipping at all. Another benefit of this system is it's just longer lasting parts. These things are gonna way outlast your stock components. And my guess is with a used bike like this, your parts are already gonna be worn out. So you may as well go to a system like this. Now, the last thing I wanna talk about is the clutch cover with this kit. It's a deeper clutch cover giving you more oil capacity, and it's also made of billet aluminum. So this thing is super tough. It's gonna hold up in those gnarly off-road riding conditions. Now, to feed this engine, and to give us more range on the trails and riding in the desert, we added an IMS 3.1 gallon tank. Also, the stock radiators on this thing were toasted, they were leaking. So we swapped those out for a new set of radiators and finished it off with a red radiator hose kit. Next up on this bike is chassis and drive. So first thing we tackled is the wheel set. So for looks and also for performance, we upgraded these things to a set of Tusk impact wheels. We went with an 18-inch in the rear, and that's just a little more setup and forgiving for off-road riding. Now for tubes, we went with a set of heavy duty tubes and we wrapped those in the Michelin Starcross 5 medium terrain tires. Now I love these tires, they last a super long time, but they give you traction throughout the lifespan in a variety of terrain. Now to drive this wheel set, we added a primary drive chain and sprocket kit. We went with an alloy rear sprocket and a gold-plated X-ring chain. Not only do these things look trick, but they last a super long time and they're low maintenance as well. Now moving on to one of my favorite accessories on this bike, it's the Trail Tech kickstand. Now I love a kickstand for off-road riding. I do not like holding my bike every time we stop. So if you don't already have a kickstand on your bike, definitely look into one of these. Last thing in this category is the Gpr Stabilizer. It's a V4. This is an underbar mounted stabilizer, so it's out of the way, but it makes a huge difference, not only on single track when you're hitting rocks and roots, it keeps the front wheel from deflecting. It also helps at higher speeds when you're riding off-road. It inspires confidence, keeps you from getting head shake, and just makes this bike a whole lot more stable. Next up, let's talk about the brake system on this bike. Now, with bikes this age, the brake system is really not up to snuff with the power and performance of newer bikes, and also, chances are by now your brake components are going to be worn out anyway. So to replace all that, we went to Tusk. Tusk is our go-to for brake parts. They just work well and they're well priced. So we added a set of steel braided brake lines front and rear. And to go along and complement those, I added an oversized rotor up front that gives us more leverage and stopping power. We also added a new rotor out back, and altogether these new brake parts just make a huge difference in the brake performance on this bike. Now to protect all those new brake components, that takes me into our next category, which is protection. So we added a disc guard to protect that new disc out back, and we also went with the Works Connection caliper guard. Now moving forward to protect our engine, we added a Ricochet off-road skid plate. These things are super tough and nearly indestructible. Now moving up from there, we went with the Duval aluminum radiator guards. Now, not only do these things brace the radiators and keep our new radiators looking straight, they also protect the fins and keep the radiators working and cooling like they should. Now, moving up from the radiator to protect our hands, we went with our favorite hand guards, and those are the D-Flex Pros from Tusk. Now, these things not only look good, they're super tough, they're just everything that you're looking for in a full wraparound handguard. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is rider triangle. And what I mean by that is the 3 points of contact for each rider to their bike. So up top, we added a set of Pro Taper bars to this thing. They're oversized, and these things give good flex and comfort out on the trail. To complement those, we went with a set of pillow top grips. These things have been around forever. They're super comfortable, and they just cut down a little bit on the vibration of this older two-stroke. Now, another thing while we're up here on the bars is a Magura hydraulic clutch. Now, whether or not you've got a Recluse on your bike, this Magura clutch makes a huge difference over the stock clutch system. It's way easier to pull than the stock clutch, and it's just all-day comfort for those longer all-day rides. You're not getting fatigued or pumped up. Now moving down to our foot position, we swapped out for a set of the Tusk Billet Race foot pegs. Now a set of aftermarket foot pegs are a great way to give yourself more control and feel on the bike. Now while we're down here, we also swapped out for a new shift lever and brake pedal. Now last in rider triangle is our seat cover. Now this is the Rocky Mountain ATV Pro Series seat cover. This thing is really grippy, keeps my butt in place, and it really complements the looks of this bike. Now real quick, I want to talk about the suspension on this bike. The stock suspension in 2004 was actually pretty good, so all that we did was went through, freshened this stuff up, we set sag, we've made a few clicker adjustments to fine tune it for our type of riding, and these components are working well with anything that we've thrown at it. Now last but not least, we got to talk about the looks of this bike. You can definitely see that it does not look like a 2004 anymore, and that's thanks to the MX Restyle Kit from Polysport. Now this is a complete plastic kit, and it updates the looks of this bike to the newer CRF styling, which I think makes a huge difference on some of these older two-strokes. So to complement this new kit, we got with the TAC graphics. They made us a full custom set of graphics in the matte finish, and it really just complements the black color scheme of this bike. I think it turned out great. And to finish up, we added a bunch of different red anodized parts to this bike. They really just are the cherry on top, and they give you a little bit of that bling factor. And that does it for our CR250R trail bike build on this bike. Now, if you guys like the video, be sure and like it, share it with your buddies, and also we want you to comment below and let us know what you liked about the bike or what you maybe would have changed. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Check out our website for all the parts and accessories that we've added to this thing. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.